There are hundreds of best of 2022 metal album lists, some of which are so detailed and thorough that after watching them I realized that I didn't hear even half of the albums on some of those, and my personal list would have not even come close to the ones put up by some of those amazing fellow YouTubers. Shame! So instead of doing that, let's discuss what actually kept heavy metal going this year, with the major outcomes and news for 2022 setting us up for what to expect in 2023. Here you go. But most importantly, very quick before we start, Merry Christmas you all guys! Thank you all so much for all your support this year. I truly, honestly don't know what I'd be doing without this amazing metal community we're building together here, guys. So from the bottom of my heart, I wish you that next year is going to be much better than this one, and hopefully we'll be able to meet with at least some of you at some of those amazing metal shows which are coming in 2023. Merry Christmas! 2022 was a year of comeback of the true form of metal. After 2 years of being locked in an internet prison cell, metalheads around the world were finally able to enjoy their favorite music the way it's meant to be enjoyed, in sweaty clubs and on festivals. And as restrictions were lifted and the bands were able to go on the road once again, that expectedly caused quite a lot of traffic jam on the roads around the world, with the guys in the big cars being able to drive a little quicker than most others.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So 2022 became a year of the major and massive world tours, and I actually think that it might be just the start of a new era of live concerts in the industry. After 2 years of rescheduling, cancellations and health problems, the two heavyweights of heavy metal, Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, were finally able to go through their 50 heavy metal years and the second leg of their Legacy of the Beast world tours. As both of those tours progressed, we actually released a number of episodes on each of those, so I'm actually not going to go into the details of song choices, production and so on and so forth in this episode, but I just wanted to underline how unbelievable it is that after rocking the world for so many years, both of those bands still have so much energy and power on stage, and yes, maybe because they had a couple of years to recharge their batteries, but nevertheless are still able to put out an amazing performance, despite their age, running around the stage and electrifying their audiences. Just now, Iron Maiden released a series of behind-the-scenes episodes with Bruce Dickinson for their Legacy of the Beast tour, which actually showed just a tiny portion of how much work, how much planning and detailing, and how many people it takes to put up that final picture we see on stage.
While I'm blowing my nose and getting all snotty, having a drink of water, Tash is taking the man bun off and letting the hair down.
But the truth is, that amount of work actually pays off quite well. And as I promised, there will be a separate video for what to expect in 2023 in the metal world. But just running a little bit ahead of myself, I wanted to point out that in my opinion, after having this short winter and spring break, when the bands return to touring for their 50 Heavy Metal Years tour and their Future Past tour, they by all means will not tune it down, but actually quite the opposite, will step up their game even more, quite possibly investing even more and more into the stage production, and not only to be able to differentiate themselves from other bands, but also to make sure that their fans actually know what they're paying for. As let's not forget, the ticket prices are actually at all-time high right now.
Exactly.
And the same of course goes for other bands as well. This year Motley Crue and Def Leppard went on a massive stadium tour around North America. The tour which actually has become the most successful in each of those bands' careers.
What?
Which by the way just once again proves that rock and roll is far from being dead and is actually doing quite well, even compared to other musical genres. And so of course it was only logical that after rocking the United States and Canada, the two bands will make their stadium tour a worldwide phenomenon and take it on the road in Latin America and Europe as well. And so first of all, it does look like 2023 will be year number 2 of this massive production world tours, as this year actually showed that because of the supply surplus on one side and at the same time limited financial capabilities of the audiences on the other, it is not enough to just put out a great performance by the band anymore. You kinda have to wow your fans to be able to fill those massive arenas the bands are used to around the globe. And of course, the list of those amazing tours for 2022 can go on and on, so I'm not gonna go through all of them, although the pattern there is quite similar. But I just quickly wanted to underline the tours by 2 bands, which in my opinion the metal community did not speak quite enough about this year. Number 1 is the 40th anniversary US tour by W.A.S.P. The tour, which according to Black and Lawless, the promoters in the United States thought was doomed to fail, as they refused to book the band in America for a gazillion years. Yet, which at the same time was a massive success, as the band played sold-out shows almost every night, with one show which sadly even had to be cancelled because those same promoters simply oversold it to the point when it had to be shut down by the fire department. And in my opinion, this tour just shows how much do people around the world, and yes, in the United States as well, miss those authentic performances by rock bands. And that if a band actually listens to them and gives them exactly what they are asking for, the fans are actually ready to pay the price for those tickets. And number 2 is a mind-blowing stadium world tour by the German metal legends Rammstein, which by no means is underrated simply because of the amount of people who attended it, but I feel is slightly underspoken of. Because yes, it is true, Rammstein were always famous for making their performances the ones to remember, but from the footage and the feedback I've heard from other people, this year German metal legends actually took it to an absolutely new level. In a way, leading this world trend of making a metal show harder, louder, stronger, thus resulted in so many people around the world not willing to miss a Rammstein performance when they are playing in a town close by, even if they are not really die-hard Rammstein fans. By the way, I honestly do not understand how it is possible that a tour on which a band played a massive amount of sold-out stadium shows did not make it into almost any of those top 10 of 2022 tours by most of the music media. Because actually, no matter whether you are a Rammstein fan or not, simply by looking at the footage from some of those shows and calculating the amount of people which should have attended this tour, it actually should have been in at least top 10 of almost any of those lists. But weirdly enough, is still widely ignored by many.
Yeah.
So by all means, if you think that I'm a lunatic and this tour was actually tiny, or if you do know why a metal band, which by the way is one of the only metal bands in the world which was able to gain massive world success without actually singing in English, is being so ignored in all of those top 10 lists, please do let us know in the comments. I'm really curious to find out. By the way, I'm talking about all those tours and concerts like if I attended them or something, but the truth is, me being Ukrainian in Ukraine makes it quite impossible because of the war in my country. And so here I just wanted to give a shout out and say thank you to all of those amazing metal bands and musicians who voiced their support for Ukraine by sending me those messages, or picking up a Ukrainian flag at their live show, or of course by supporting the Steel Wings non-profit foundation which we founded here on the ground in Ukraine. Please guys, just know that this support actually means the world to me and to all Ukrainian metalheads. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you guys. And the craziest thing is, despite constant bombings and power outages, Ukrainian metalheads actually kept the heavy metal fire burning here in the ground, as we constantly organize charity concerts and events here, maybe as a way for us to actually not only raise funds, but also to prove, first of all, to ourselves that Russian rockets cannot really change our way of living, and we will continue playing heavy metal no matter what.
We are Ukraine, and fuck you, Putin. Ukraine, one other set.
So once again, I just wanted to thank you all guys for all your support this year, and please know that I will be super happy to welcome you guys all in Kyiv for a massive heavy metal festival after our victory. As metal bands were able to hit the road once again and kinda stepped up the production in a way living up to the fame they've got in the 1980s, many mainstream media around the world suddenly in 2022 started showing interest in heavy metal, although they were absolutely indifferent about it just a couple of years ago.
Music! We need music! This is music!
And yeah, in case you're wondering, I'm not only talking about Stranger Things, although of course it played a huge part in it.
Chrissy, this is from you.
The latest Ozzy Osbourne album was reviewed and spoken of in pretty much every music outlet, and Ozzy's health issues and his ability to perform on stage were suddenly widely discussed at pretty much the level they were when the Osbournes were still airing.
So you have a more stable life now?
No.
And James Hetfield's divorce was suddenly a hot topic, like he's Kim Kardashian or something. Wait, weren't there also rumors of him actually dating Kim Kardashian at some point? Huh? Some weirdos on TikTok even tried to cancel Metallica for apparently being Nazis, so now even mainstream audiences know that Metallica cannot be cancelled. I mean, we metalheads knew that far long ago, as Metallica even for fun tried to cancel themselves, first by releasing Saint Anger, then Lulu, and then by doing a bunch of other shit, only to prove once and for all that Metallica cannot be cancelled whatsoever.
Yes, that's true.
And in addition to that, multiple metal clips became viral on TikTok and other social media platforms, resulting in more and more people who never did that before exploring this wonderful new world of heavy metal, and many young people around the world joining the legions of metalheads around the globe. And here's the thing, I'm actually not one of those gatekeepers or elitists at all, and I personally think it's absolutely beautiful that more and more young people are joining the legions of metalheads around the globe, as for years we metalheads have been complaining about heavy metal not gaining enough attention, from the mainstream media. So guess what, now it looks like it finally does. And so I personally believe that this trend, which kind of restarted in 2022, first time in many years, is absolutely amazing and overall will only benefit the metal community worldwide. And of course, talking about the attention heavy metal received by mainstream audiences and institutions around the globe, we simply cannot forget one of the most important events of this year, when Judas Priest reunited with KK Downing and Les Binks on stage once again, as they finally and long overdue got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, becoming only third metal band being recognized by this institution. Overall, I know it's quite weird, but even though I don't really care much, I try to follow the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction almost every year, and I have to be honest with you, and yes, actually, this might be because I am, of course, a Judas Priest fan, everyone knows that, but I actually do not remember this much attention in media coverage of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony in a very long time. And this, of course, may not only be because of Judas Priest induction, but also because such media popular names as Eminem and Dolly Parton were getting inducted as well. But the fact remains that everyone, and not only heavy metal media, suddenly spoke about flying V guitars on stage, thus making me believe that in the following years we actually might see more and more heavy metal bands being recognized by Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which, of course, in every case will most likely be very, very long overdue.
You know.
And by the way, which heavy metal bands do you think should be in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? And do you think metalheads should even care about such mainstream institutions? Please let us know in the comments. Despite this year being amazing for heavy metal overall, it also became one of the most divisive for metal community, which kind of makes me wonder what happened to us agreeing to disagree, as everybody seems to have an opinion about everything. You know, when Bruce Dickinson went off at that smoker fan at an Iron Maiden show in the first row, most people, instead of going, "Whoa, that happened," What else is new? You know, because Iron Maiden have been very vocal about weed smoking in their concerts throughout the years, and it is by far not the first time Bruce Dickinson is doing something like that.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Metalheads around the world just went crazy, with some defending Bruce Dickinson and others just shaming the guy and calling him a dinosaur or something.
It's just outrageous.
You know, the same of course goes for the main reunion of the year, the Pantera tribute shows which are happening right now, with some diehard fans just simply cannot embrace it whatsoever and criticize every move the band makes, and everybody who is simply enjoying this and is simply happy to hear his favorite songs live once again. And the same of course goes for the main shitshow metal fight of the year, which by itself is pretty much as old as the foundations of the earth. A fight which at first may seem as a fundamental fight between the old, true generation of metalheads and the young, fake one. But in reality has nothing to do with that, and in many cases is just a way to grab some fake attention by the media. With some bands criticizing the others for using samples during their live shows and eventually deeming them not real rock and roll, and the other camp trying to defend themselves by calling the first one dinosaurs who do not know anything about modern music.
Why, God, why?
When in reality, both of them are freaking wrong, and what we actually needed was not another media attention fight, but rather a little bit more of respect and balance. Because yes, it is true, if you play classic 4x4 hard rock and you heavily rely on samples in your live performances, then you clearly are doing something wrong. Yet at the same time, if those samples are part of your composition and musical arrangement, then you simply cannot be criticized for not being able to drag a 100-piece orchestra with you at every show. What you should be criticized instead is for fucking not having a second laptop or not knowing what cloud servers are in the 21st century. So yes, in reality this fight, just like the weed discussion for Iron Maiden, was not really an existential fight between the old and the new generations of metalheads, since in reality there is no division between them, because guess what, a lot of classic heavy metal bands whom you consider legends do use samples during live shows. And in my opinion, it is absolutely okay as long as you don't overuse it, with that usage prevailing over the actual live musicianship and heavy metal eventually losing its essence. Or as long as by smoking weed you do it respectfully, not in the first row and without interfering with everybody else's experience. Or as long as you use your old band's name as a tribute to your friends and not a way to release new music under the name of Pantera. So here's the thing, I actually think that if we metalheads do not eat each other by next year, 2023 will be an amazing year for heavy metal. Because there is in fact a lot to be excited about in 2023, of which I will be very happy to speak in our next video, including of course massive and anticipated world tours such as the Future Past tour for example, and of course many anticipated metal albums. And yes, I'm talking about you Metallica, In Flames, and truly, hopefully Judas Priest as well. But anyways, what about you guys? Which are your favorite albums from 2022 and why? Please let us know in the comments. And just once again, thank you guys all for your support this year. Merry Christmas to you all. I truly hope that next year is going to be much better for all of us. Thank you so much for watching guys, and we will prevail. Slava Ukraini!